I'll show you how to set up your fusion staff. So you'll receive two ends and a handle. The handle has the fusion locking mechanism on both ends. This is a compression lock. It's quite simple and it's really good to understand how this works. You want these rubber bushes, you'll see two rubber bushes here, to be relaxed so that they fit inside your ends. There's a cam bolt here, so it's like a big screw, and if you turn this, it expands these rubbers. If you turn it anti-clockwise, it loosens those rubbers. So you want them relaxed enough so that you can fit this inside the ends, push it over the O-ring, and then tighten up your staff. Keep turning it as much as you can. You can't turn anymore. There's no gap where they join, and that's solid and locked in now. Same on the other side. So the rubber cam on top just needs to be aligned with the parts so that I can insert it, as well as remembering that those need to be relaxed, so they'll insert into my staff, push it over that O-ring, tighten it up all the way so it's fully locked, and now I have a solid one-piece staff ready to go. I'll show you how to set up your V3 Dragon hub onto the end of your staff. It's like a clamp. It's in two pieces, and simply just sit it on the end of your staff. Put it together like a puzzle, the two halves, and then close it around the end of the staff. On the side here is a locking bolt with a little washer. Make sure the little washer is just below the head and on the other side or other hub. Ensure that the hub is aligned so it's in line with your end cap, and then using your Allen key, simply tighten up that locking bolt. And the most important thing is that you are attaching this to both the end and the end cap. The end caps on the Fusion are removable, so it's important that you're clamping onto the end as well to ensure that this doesn't come off with the end cap. And you tighten that up so that it's nice and secure. You can test and feel that it is locked on there, and you want to do that before every use. I'll show you how to put the spokes onto your V3 Dragon hub now that it's on your staff. The beauty with the V3 Dragon hubs is that you can set it up as 3 or 4 spokes on either end, and it's interchangeable at any time. So I'll set it up as a 3 spoke, but you can also set it up as 4 spoke anytime. On the side, you've got the holes for the spokes, and on the underside are the screws that hold those in. So insert, push it all the way in, so it's all the way in, you can't push it anymore. And then on the underside, using your Allen key, just simply tighten up the little grub screw. You would have received a little packet of grub screws, so they just insert and then tighten on. Do it up as much as you can so it's grabbing onto the spoke, and that should be really secure. You'll also notice on the underside there are 3 dots, and that shows you where to place your spokes if you would like a 3-spoke setup. So I'll continue with that. Insert into the side and push it all the way in, and then Allen key, tightening up that grub screw on the underside. And always test that you can't pull it out, so they're really secure. And last one, insert into the side and push it all the way in, and then tighten it up. If you wanted the 4 spokes, just place them in the other holes and make sure that they're even and balanced for a 4-spoke configuration. Same goes if you're setting up spiral claws. Again, just make sure they're inserted all the way. You'll see that there's a little hole on the end. Just ignore that. It's just for manufacturing purposes. It's redundant because you can set them up in any direction, usually flat. You could set them up as a trident in that way, and it just grabs onto the rod there. And again, just making sure it's inserted all the way in before you tighten up that little grub screw. I'll show you how to set up the Fusion F3 hub. It has the same locking mechanism as the Fusion handle, which is a compression lock. You want to make sure that these rubber bushes are relaxed, so there's some movement there. If they're not, you just need to loosen off the cam bolt by turning it here, but not too loose, just so that it can fit inside the end of your staff, and then push it all the way in, so over that O-ring, and then all the way in so that the bottom of the hub is touching the end of the staff, and then simply tighten that up. You want it to be as tight as you can so that it cannot turn anymore, and that's fully locked in. Now we'll put the spokes in so they sit inside the holes on the side. Push the spokes all the way in, and then using the Allen key on the top of the hub, you've got some grub screws, and you want to tighten these grub screws. The grub screws grab onto the side of the rod and keep it secure. So you want to make sure that they are in before you start to play with fire. Again, push it all the way in and then tighten the grub screw. And the third one. You just insert that Allen key, tighten it all the way up. Nice and tight. Just check everything is secure before you start to play. If you're setting up spiral claws, they go in the same way as the wicks. Just simply insert them and then tighten up the grub screw. Same method. There is a hole on the end. You don't need to worry about that. It's just for manufacturing purposes, so just ignore the hole in the end of the spoke. To take your F3 hub off, just grab onto the end of the hub and turn your staff in an anti-clockwise direction, maybe about 4 or 5 half turns, and then just pull it out. It's important not to keep turning and turning the end, otherwise you might undo the cam bolt all the way. If you do that, you could lose all of your parts if you took the cam bolt all the way out. So just avoid doing that. It's only 4 or 5 half turns, and then pull out. If you find that they are loose like this or too loose, then just turn the cam bolt, which is grabbing onto that metal silver part of the bolt, and turning it clockwise to tighten it up. You just want those relaxed so that it's ready to go for next time. The most important care and maintenance thing you can do for your Fusion handle is to keep it clean. So keeping the parts clean, especially the rubber bushes and the rubber cam on top, so that they can get traction when you're setting it up. Otherwise they'll just slide. You might experience that you cannot tighten it. It just keeps turning when you insert it into the end. So to avoid that, keep this nice and clean, as well as inside your ends up into where the parts sit, because if it's dirty in there, that means it's going to be getting dirt or oil or residue onto these parts as well. You'll just need a cloth with some soapy water and give it a good clean, especially those rubber parts. All of those rubber parts, you want to make sure that there's no, oil, fuel, dust or residue from your fire spinning on any of these parts. Nice and clean. Let that dry. And inside both ends, so deep inside where these parts sit, I'm going to use a chopstick. You can use anything else, piece of dowel or the end of a screwdriver. Just place that clean the inside of the ends. Okay. When you're happy with that, you want to make sure all the parts are dry, because if they're not dry, they're going to slip. So drying it off, and again, drying off on the inside as well. You could just let it sit and dry, air dry, or just use a dry tea towel or cloth So do that regularly. If you notice that they're dirty or if you're experiencing any issues setting it up, definitely try cleaning your staff. To remove the end caps from your staff ends, you can try and do it by hand. It is a little bit tricky this way, and it is really super tightly held in there, but it is removable, so you can give that a try just by hand. You can try and get your fingernail underneath and then just give it a good pull, but do be careful of your nails. And as I said, it is really tight, but you can get it off by hand also. If you find that super hard to do, you can actually use a tool, just something from around the house, like a piece of dowel, and you place it in the inside of the other end of the end to the end cap, place it onto something hard and just give it a good bang and it'll come up. And there it is. If you can't insert the fusion connector into your staff end, it won't fit because these parts are too expanded, they're too fat to fit in. It just means that your handle is in the locked position. So the cam bolt on the end, just grab onto the silver metal cam bolt here and turn it anti-clockwise. Should be able to do that by hand, and that will relax these pieces. So you'll notice that these rubbers begin to relax. If you can't do it by hand, you actually can't turn it. I'll give you an example. If I wasn't able to turn this now, what I'd do is insert it as much as I can into the end and then use the leverage of the handle to turn that cam bolt. So it doesn't matter that you couldn't get it all the way in, as long as the end is just over the cam bolt, you'll be able to use that as leverage to help undo that cam bolt. You want these to be relaxed and then you're ready to set up your staff. I'll show you how to change the parts on your fusion connector on your handle. You'll notice on the side of the connector below the rubber bushes, pretty much on the opposite side to where the fusion logo is, there's a little locking screw here. You need an M2 Allen key. We didn't include these. It's thinner than the Allen key that you have included. So M2 Allen key or hex key. Insert that into the locking grub screw and undo it. You don't need to take it all the way out. And then grab onto the cam bolt, turn it anti-clockwise. You want to unscrew it all the way until it comes out. And there we have it. You can replace the parts. It's very important that you put them back in the right sequence. So I'll show you that. Nylon washer first, rubber bush second, nylon washer third, rubber bush fourth, cam bolt in last, and turn it clockwise to tighten it, and all the way in until it touches the rubber bushes. So don't tighten it further than that, they should still be relaxed. You'll need to tighten up the locking screw on the side of the connector using your M2 hex Allen key. This is important that you don't tighten this all the way, very, very important. Otherwise you'll inhibit the cam bolt from being able to spin and it could lock your cam bolt. So you only want to tighten it enough so that it is flush with the connector. Very, very important. This locking mechanism just stops you from losing your pieces inadvertently. So that's what that's there for, and should be good to go. It's good to understand how the fusion locking system works. It is a compression lock on the end of the handle, both sides. A big cam bolt that screws in, so essentially just a big bolt. And when you insert this into your staff end, the cam rubber here activates by grabbing and getting traction on the inner side of the staff, and then by twisting it, you're essentially twisting this cam bolt, and the more that I twist it, it locks and it expands these rubber bushes. I'm not sure if you can see that, but now they're definitely a lot wider, and that jams inside the staff, and that's what locks it in. So it's compressing and locking in, and it gives it that really stable, secure lock. You can undo it by turning it in the opposite way, so anti-clockwise. That loosens those off, and you pull it out of the staff end. And that's how it works. Really important to keep this clean. It's a main thing, so that you can always, get that cam bolt to grab onto the inside edge and then spin to turn that down. In the rare occurrence that your rubber bush isn't relaxing after you've tried to turn the cam bolt anti-clockwise, and you see that the other parts are relaxed and they're moving, you can move them, but there's one rubber bush that just remains fat, it feels stiff, and it's not going down. Have a look. You might notice that there's a missing nylon washer, and what's happened is the nylon washer has possibly gone inside the rubber bush, and that's where it's stuck at the moment. So you'll need to remove the parts. To do that, you need an M2 Allen key, hex key, to remove this little locking bolt here on the side of the Fusion connector. It's just located on the opposite side to the Fusion logo. You actually don't need to remove it, you just loosen it just halfway off, and that way you'll be able to remove the cam bolt by turning it anti-clockwise, unscrew it all the way until you remove that cam bolt. Then you can remove all the parts, including that rubber bush that has the nylon washer stuck in it. You can use something like tweezers, or you can use your hex key. You'll see that it's jammed in under there. You just need to try and get it out. So just use anything to pull it out. I got mine out using the hex key. Now it's important that you put your parts back together in the right sequence. So firstly, nylon washer, rubber bush, nylon washer, rubber bush, cam bolt in last, and turning that anti-clockwise to tighten it in. It's really important that the parts go back in the right sequence, otherwise the locking mechanism won't work correctly, and that all the parts are there. So 2 nylon washers, 2 rubber bushes, cam bolt, and then again we just want to lock in the side connector locking screw. It's important that you only half tighten it so that it's flush with the connector. This is really important. If you over tighten this or tighten it all the way up, it will inhibit the cam bolt from being able to screw in and tighten. So again, really important, just only tighten that up halfway so it's flush with the connector, and then you're good to go.